Hi, welcome to the Sunday Fantasy Show. This week we'll be talking about Lord of the Rings, of course. But first off, a shout out to my first patron, Gary, who is actually a member of the Vike Society. He's Geng's Authenticity Officer.
Oh, what a foolish person
Yes,
he
what a
is.
foolish man he is to be an Authenticity Officer. Well, I believe
No,
he's
I meant
Geng's.
to be a Patreon, to be honest.
Well, that as well.
But also an Authenticity Officer.
Well, I think he's Gary's. I'm sure Gary's like part of Geng's, as it were.
We'll find out.
I'll work it out eventually. But yeah, on with the show, and to the glory of Lord of the Rings and Tolkien and the Legendarium itself. Now, I can start wherever people want me to start, or I can start in the beginning with Eru and the creating of Arda, and he who is known as Ilúvatar, who is the, of course, creator of the whole universe, and then going into the Valar and the Maiar and the whole creational thing in the first part of the Silmarillion. Or I can then actually go into the first age properly and skip the age of the trees and the lanterns and go to the Age of Stars and skip the Age of Stars and go into the first age itself with the battles against Melkor. Or, what I think the spooky goth wife wants me to do is try and explain a little bit about the second age.
I apologise for any crunching in the background. The carb hund has decided to start really noisily chewing his bone in the background.
While we're recording, so...
Just think of it as something atmospheric.
Yes.
Yeah.
So... Where do you want me to start?
So, I mean, I listened to the Silmarillion.
Right.
Right, because you were like, you have to, otherwise I'm going to divorce you.
Yes.
And then this new show's coming out.
Yes.
And then everybody on the internet has said, oh, all the bits from the show aren't in the Silmarillion because it's all about the first age and the show's going to be the second age.
Correct. Now, the only piece of image... Right, no. The problem is, all the background information for the second age is... You've got the Ankelebeth, which is the destruction of Númenor, which is in the second age.
Right.
But that's right...
Yeah, that's at the end.
Of the Silmarillion, and was tacked in by Christopher Tolkien, and shouldn't have been, but he wanted to expand the Silmarillion as a printed book to give a bit more, because the Silmarillion isn't even a finished piece of literature.
Yeah.
It is compiled notes.
So did that not come out then when Tolkien was about?
No, he was dead. It is a posthumous.
Yes.
A posthumous.
Posthumous.
A posthumous. No,
it's posthumous.
It is posthumous, dear. But yes, it was a posthumous release by his son Christopher. That then was further edited by his son, I think, who was Simon Tolkien.
I don't know.
Who was to do a lot with the actual films as well, with the Tolkien estate. So the Silmarillion itself was not really a finished novel. It was more the notes cleaned up, tidied up, put together, bound, and published.
Yeah.
If you want the first age properly, where they're finished stories, you have to look to the Children of Húrin, which is one of the other ones. The Fall of Gondolin, the Hidden City as it's known.
Right.
Now this is all to do with the war with the Cimmerils, which are the three stones created from the dying light of the trees of Valinor and Aman and everything else. So then that war happens, and Bellerand sinks beneath the waves.
Yeah.
Okay, and the Undying Land, Aman, actually becomes the proper Undying Land and leaves to some degree.
Because Númenor's basically Atlantis.
Yes, that's the whole point. Númenor is the Atlantean mythology in our world that Tolkien uses to create the Númenorians, and they are of the Atlantean style origin.
Yeah.
But that's around 16, if my memory serves right, it's around 16 to 1800 years into the second age.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're talking about halfway through the second age. And the end of the second age finishes as what they call, like, the end of the second age is the Battle of the Last Alliance. So that is the surviving Númenorians who have gone to Middle-earth and founded the cities of Arnor and Gondor.
Right.
And the two kingdoms of the Númenorians,
which
is Gondor and Arnor as well. So their capitals, but the capital of Gondor, of course, being Minas Tirith, used to be Osgiliath.
Oh, but that's a bit...
Because it's the tower of... in the middle, and you had Minas Kiron to the north, Minas Tirith to the south, and then Osgiliath in between, and then a number of other fortifications.
Right.
In the north was Arnor.
Yeah.
And they had a war with the Witch King.
Yeah.
which destroyed Arnor,
Right.
but that battle happens in the Third Age.
Is he called the Witch King of Arnor? That just
He
seems
is.
to...
He's the Witch King of Angmar,
Oh,
and Angmar is his domain in the northern part of the Misty Mountains.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I always get it mixed up with Angbad, which is
Yes.
connected to Utumno, which is Melkor's realm in the north in the First Age.
Right.
Okay. So the new TV series will be about the Second Age.
Yeah.
Now, mostly the Second Age concerns itself with the destruction of Numenor
Yeah.
and the creation of the Rings of Power.
So we might see sexy Sauron then.
You will probably most definitely see sexy Sauron, because if they don't, they're missing a trick there.
Well, this is the thing, and I said this on Facebook, is that they're going out of their way to be all like, oh no, Sauron's not going to be in it.
Sauron has to be in it if you want to do the Second Age correctly, because it's Sauron coming out of the First Age going, fuck, what do I do? My boss is dead, and he's now stuck back in the halls of remembrance with Iluvatar.
Oh yeah, he's locked up, isn't
He's
he?
locked up, and it's like until the world ends.
He's like in
So
God
Sauron
prison.
sat there going, I don't know what I'm going to do, so I'm going to do a number of things, like cause Numenorians to try and go west and create the world to go from being flat to a sphere,
As you do.
as you do. Well, it's not that. It's what happens is Iluvatar sees the Numenorians, and it's not even the Iluvatar, it's actually the Valar and everything else. They go, oh god, they keep trying to come to the Undying Lands. Humans aren't allowed to come to the Undying Lands. Iluvatar help. And Iluvatar goes, the world is round. It was flat, now it is round. So Numenor sinks below for the waves because turning it from flat to a sphere causes the waves to destroy Numenor.
There's like a load of flat earther, like old elves that are like, it's flat, and they're like,
It's still flat to the elves.
Like, Grandma, it's round.
No.
It's flat.
To all the elves, it's always flat.
Yeah.
It will. It's never a sphere to them. It's why Legolas can see 105 riders,
Oh.
because there's no curvature to the earth to an elf.
Oh, God,
it's
well,
all flat.
We don't want to make flat earth people think that they're now like superpowered elves.
Well, if
so-
they are, it means I can twat them with a lump of cold iron and not feel bad. You're an elf, are you? Tonk.
I still like that tweet that I saw about recasting Brian Blessed as Legolas, but otherwise keeping the films exactly the same.
Well, I can't fault you on that. Can't fault you on that at all. Brian Blessed as an elf would be amazing. But yeah, so the Second Age is weird because there is lots written about it, but you
Right.
have to go hunting in the histories of Middle Earth,
Oh, so it's not
the
even
Lost
in...
Tales, and the dictionary, and you have to go through the whole legendarium
Yeah.
to try and piece together the Third Age. And the main factors of the Third Age is Numenor is destroyed,
Yeah.
and the Rings of Power are created.
You're on about Second Age.
Yeah, sorry, Second
yeah,
Age,
yeah.
not First Age. It all gets muddled in my
Yes,
head. There's
that's
far
fine.
too much history in there, and sometimes
So-
I
oh,
don't know whether
oh.
it's Tolkien history or Anglo-Saxon history or Scandinavian history or just general history, and it's all got mashed up.
Or 40k history.
Or 40k knowledge
Yeah.
to its own thing. But you should, in theory, see Khazad-dûm at its height of power before before it truly concerned about going Isolinic
Yeah.
and becomes all Isolist in their behaviour of
Yeah.
shutting the doors.
Yeah.
So you should have the region of Eregion with the great Noldor forgers there who
Right.
learn half their skill from the dwarves of Khazad-dûm anyway, and then their own skill sets because they also learn it from Owly.
Yeah.
So you should see the forging of the Rings of Power, but Sauron goes to the elves because it's the elves who can imbibe it with the magic, whereas the dwarves can't.
Yeah.
The dwarves are just incredibly skilled craftsmen,
Yeah.
but they don't have the ability of the magic of the elves because, of course, the dwarves are not children of Iluvatar directly. They are the bastard offspring of Iluvatar because they are the creation of Owly
Yeah.
before the world's even done. You've got to bear in mind, dwarves come before all other races.
Yeah. You've
Yeah.
explained this to me.
Yeah, no, but I'm explaining to everyone else. Dwarves were created before anyone else even existed as a race, and they're put to sleep. Now, those of you who know me should already know this of the Khazad and their language, the Khazdur, and the amount of gravel and phlegm you need in it sometimes, and the origin of Tolkien creating the dwarves as a mystical race with a hidden language, hidden meanings, hidden names, and then they have an outside thing of a day-to-day... Like, because Gimli's real name isn't Gimli. That is his common name used to all and sundry. Like Thorin and Durin and everything else. They have real names.
Yeah, it's like when Asian people in India have to work in a call centre and they make them call themselves John.
Well, actually, it's the Jewish tradition, dear, of you have your...
No.
The Jewish tradition, is, which is the reason that both Pratchett and Tolkien, as much as Pratchett parodied and the dwarves and the love of... It's not Tolkien being racist in the sense of, I've made the dwarf, but a hidden language.
Yeah, well, you like languages.
This is the whole point. He used a hidden language, so he never actually wrote a dwarven language, because he went, I created the dwarves, they've got a secret language, but because it's secret, I never have to write it.
That's genius. It's like so secret, even I don't know it because I'm not a dwarf.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, Tolkien got around having to write, so he'd done all these elven languages.
I mean, he did have his hands full.
He
with
wrote
the
Elven, he wrote
languages.
Numenorian, and the Elven language has about 20 different dialects. Numenorian's got like 3 different dialects.
And he had like something for the Rohirrim as well, didn't he? So...
Rohirrim is the easiest one ever.
Yeah.
Because the Rohirrim language is just a
Anglo-Saxon.
slightly messed up old, ancient Germanic, old Anglo... It's Old English, Old Saxon.
Yeah.
Because bearing in mind, I had to get my dictionary out the other day.
Yes.
And I was cursing myself because I was looking in the Old Saxon part when I should have been looking in Old English, wondering why the words were slightly off. I'm going, well, that's not the right word I'm looking for, and then realising I was in the wrong dictionary section.
So, like, just peddling back, the reason that I say sexy Sauron is because I felt, like, thoroughly, just in shock.
Melkor does the same.
No, but I was like, it was on Twitter or Facebook or something dumb, and they were all like, oh yeah, guys, do you know, by the way, that Sauron was super hot?
Yeah.
And I was just like, what?
Yeah.
Why was I not informed?
Take it from the view of he's in an in a Christian style.
Yeah.
And not the batshit mental angels, but the modern
yeah.
Renaissance style, Michelangelo, David style.
Like the sexy Lucifer statues that they were like, no, that's too sexy.
Yeah, that's the whole point. That's the whole thing of the Maiar, and also to the Valar, is the point of Sauron in that persona of temptation. It is the, ooh, I'm sexy Sauron. You know you really want to go west. You know immortality's all for you, Numenorians. Ooh, you know you want to. He's like the little thing on your shoulder that tells you shouldn't do something, but it's like, you know you want to.
I think they're going to have to employ you as the voice of sexy Sauron.
I have no...
Oh, go on.
Go on. It's like Mrs. Doyle with a cup of tea. You know you want one.
You will go west,
Right.
so you
You
will.
will. Yeah.
Go on.
Go on, go on,
A
go on,
tiny
go
bit
on.
of immortality there. Go on.
And Melkor does the same thing, though, in the first
Yeah.
age. Melkor does the, I'm all sexy, I'm going to sneak my way in. Oh no, I've been found out, run away!
Retreat.
Melkor does that a lot, though.
Yeah.
But everyone else says, oh, Melkor's a coward for running away. No, Melkor runs away because the people who keep turning up to deal with Melkor, in the first age to start with, are other gods.
Because there's like Iluvatar, who's the chap that creates everything.
Commonly referred to as Eru.
Yeah.
Iluvatar is the elven name
Yeah,
for him.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
Eru, to give him
Yeah.
his...
And then he creates like a load of
He is
gods.
the one.
Yeah.
Well, he creates, in effect, yes, take it as the creationist symptom a bit like Kronos
Yeah.
with the Olympiads.
Yeah.
And he goes, I am such and such, I have spawned such
I'm
and such.
bored, like I want some people to talk to.
So he
Blech.
creates them as thoughts, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's a whole big
and then
musical
they sing,
song
then
thing.
they form as a choir, in effect, taking
Yeah.
the God-style principle
Yeah.
of the Christian.
Yeah.
Because this is the whole point. Tolkien mashes that many religions,
Yeah.
creationist stories into it.
Yeah.
So the principle of having a cavity in space and time, which is a void,
Yeah.
is the Norse one of the Gununga Gap. Okay? With the giant cow
Yes.
and licking
The
a
salt-
salt block
yeah.
and everything else, because what else makes sense to a Norseman but a giant cow in space licking a salt block and creating a world?
I'm
yeah.
just like, this is what naffs me off when people get all shirty about polytheism and like creation myths and stuff.
Makes more sense than monotheism
and I'm
at
just
times.
like, you know what? If you're going to believe in something, why can't it be fun? Why can't it just be a big bloody cow licking a salt block? Even Stephen Hawking.
I've realised I'm doing hand gestures and happy faces, but we're on an audio based.
No, we'll have to just.
Not visual, just me going. "Ay," and it's like, but no one can see me going "ay,"
I
so
can see
that's
you.
redundant.
But I'm just
But
saying,
yeah,
if you're going to believe in
polytheism,
something, believe in something that you enjoy, that doesn't even make any sense. Just something that's fun.
The fact that humans are made from like the sweat of an armpit of a giant in Norse mythology. I mean, come on, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Because we are like 70% water ourselves or something daft anyway, so it might as well be made of sweat.
I mean, Stephen Hawking was like, "Oh, well, we kind of just don't know a lot of stuff, so maybe there is a big space cow somewhere
Licking a salt block.
Yeah.
With a frozen bit and a hot bit.
Yeah.
Just going and doing things. But no, the second age, to go back to it, at the creation of the rings of power. Yeah. So the Noldor, Nolder, whatever you want to call them, Noldor, Nolder, Noldur.
Yeah.
Right. Are the elves who learn all their skills from Owly.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that name.
Owly
so
is, and his wife is Vanya.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Who's the agriculture one?
Who's basically Dimitri.
Demeter.
Yeah.
Dimitri.
It all goes in my... Do you know how many names and everything? This is the problem when you know so much information. It just gets mashed in your head. But yeah, so basically, if you think of Owly as Hephaestus...
Yeah.
Or Vulcan...
Yeah.
And his wife, Yvanya, being the...
agricultural
goddess,
plants
like
and,
Frigga or Demeter. I can't remember my Roman one, which is awful, but that's probably why my potatoes have gone mental at the allotment.
This is the one of the cornucopia.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I can't remember.
But this is the whole point. Owly, being the big old, creates all the earth in the sense of actually the mountains and the valleys and everything. He does the land. And then his wife does all the trees, and she invents the Ents.
Yeah.
And the Ents come after the dwarves.
Oh.
So you go dwarves, Ents, and then finally the pointy-eared bastards, and then humans, and then hobbits somewhere in there. So the best racers, the mighty Ents and the mighty dwarves, become before anyone else in the timeline. At which point, this is why I have a lot of time for the dwarven race, the good old Khazad, and also for the Ents.
Aww.
Because, of course,
she
didn't just... Yeah, but it's the Ents and the Ents wives.
I know. That makes me sad.
But you might see Ent wives in the second age.
Because if be gone.
No, there'll be flashbacks, because that's the thing. The new Amazon picture they've put up is a flashback to Valinor.
Yeah.
Because I had to blow the image up, because I thought it was.
A lot of people
and then
did.
I blew up the image and realised that there is a pair of trees hidden in the back.
Yeah.
Where the sun is. And my brain went, well, that's sunglare. And they've hidden the trees, the two trees, in the background of the sunglare of the trees themselves. I'm like, it's very cunning, but it's also really fucking annoying, because I thought it wasn't Valinor, because it looked like one of the cities in Numenor, because of the way it was constructed.
Right.
Because that city doesn't smack of like elven... It looks too human built, like Numenorian built. Yeah. And the problem is, humans didn't learn their crafts from the elves. They'd already got their own crafts, because they're all imparted with this wisdom.
Yeah.
And what you come to understand is men, so the elves start in Aman and end up in Bellerand, but you get elves in Bellerand who stay there because of the stars going, and they're the grey elves, which are the normally the Sindarin. Okay, and they're the elves that would become the elves of Mirkwood.
Are they the ones we decided were like Northern Irish or something
last
night?
We decided that the Sindarian elves, the grey elves as it were, are basically from Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Wow, all the elves in Aman are literally Southern Irish with these beautiful lilting accents, and the Sindarin elves are so... Because they've lived under the stars and have been at war constantly with Melkor for a long time... They are just like, they're hard-bitten, like,
Sauron.
Melkor. In autumno.
Yeah.
So, but this is the point. There's lots of different elves, but the elves come out, as you look at the world, men are even further east, so the elves kind of start in the west, as a rule, and some are in the middle.
And then they kind of come together.
And they start meeting in Bellerand, in Bellerand and stuff. And of course, the only dwarves that the elves meet come out of Iradlun, being the Blue Mountain, which is Nogrond and, well, I want to say Belcanmash, but it's not. It begins with a B. My brain's forgotten. I almost uttered the dwarven name for it, and I will curse myself for doing that. But yes, It's like the elves deciding we're renaming Khazad-dûm Moria. You don't get to rename my city. Fuck off. It is not the Black Pit, you miserable arseholes. It's Khazad-dûm. It is the Dwarrodelf.
Well, it's like Australia, isn't it? When all the white people came in and they were just like, oh, well, we rename it this. It's like, oh, great. So now it basically translates to river.
You get that in this country, though, where there is something Tor and it just translates to hill.
Yeah, but it's
like,
like the
well
elves
done.
are like, no, we don't like that. Let's rename
So we're
it
going to
this.
rename Khazad-dûm Black Pit because you've shut the door on us. You've become isolinic in your, like you've literally become isolists.
It's like, oh, you don't want to go there. It's a black pit.
No, it isn't. It doesn't. They don't wake the Balrog up until the Third Age. They call it Moria at the end of the Second Age.
Because there should be like shitloads of Balrogs walking about.
No.
Or is that the first bit?
First Age.
Right,
First
okay.
Age is a shit ton of Balrogs, and that's
Is that going to be the name of the film?
shit ton of Balrogs. And dragons, including Garang, as in
That's
first...
the big bad one, isn't
the
it?
biggest of all the dragons.
Yeah.
And if you've ever seen a map scale, folks, like when they put Smaug on and then Garang comes up and Garang is like, Smaug is about the size of an inch and there's Garang just like filling the page and people are like, how does he die? Dwarves. Legitimately.
Oh,
The dragons
they've got-
die in the first age to the dwarves. Can't stand against them, and the dwarves turn up in all this beautiful mithril armour with war horns and masks on that cause fear in the dragons, and they hew them down with mithril axes. And it's like, yeah, Mr. Pointy Ears, I can sing to the trees. Oh, Ilúvatar's special children, firstborn, are... Yeah, the dwarves are the bastard stepchildren of Ilúvatar. We're the red-headed stepchild of Ilúvatar. And do you know what? We're the ones that keep dealing with all the fucking dragons. Shocking, that.
What was it, like a kit, like Forge World did, and it was like dwarven dragon. I don't know. I feel like I've seen this before, but I might be thinking of something else.
No, you do have the old school Slayers from Warhammer Fantasy, which were Dragon Slayers
No,
done
but
with the
their
right
Lord
crest.
of the Rings
Their Lord of the Ring
franchise, did they
range
not
is
do
quite
like
nice.
a-
They didn't do a dwarf dragon hunter because they've never touched the first age because they're not allowed.
Oh,
They are only allowed to do
films.
yeah. So they're not allowed to. So they've created characters from the Third Age that aren't in the films and have done characters for them because people have wanted them.
Yeah.
But if you look at like what Jackson did to the dwarves in the films, and then you read the dwarves themselves, it's like that man has an elf fetish and clearly needs counselling. Because the amount of elven love in the Third Age based films,
You do get very upset at Helm's Deep.
2,000 men of the Rohirrim defend Helm's Deep against an army of 10,000 Uruk-hai, Dunlendings, and men of evil. Okay, and there are orcs and goblins as well, but it is 10,000 strong. 2,000 men defend it. And then Éomer turns up with Gandalf and another 2,000 riders, and they break the army. And the Black Trees, the Horum. The only other language I'm pretty good at, folks, is either Entish or Dwarven, I'm afraid. It's either because with the Entish, it is generally a case of elongated O's and Ums with a deep bass Horum or Barum Hindratur, which is literally, there is no, and I used to be able to do the whole thing of there is no in Entish, but the Hurum, which are the Black Trees, which are the Ents that either have become too sleepy and have become evil, but not evil in a sense of, ooh, Morgoth, Sauron evil, more just they've become so embittered because they've become tree-like, but they've also then caused the trees around them to wake up and
feral.
become ent-like. Yeah. Think of it like a gangrel. A bit bestial.
Yeah.
So there's no civility to them anymore.
I was going to say, if they
and
were
the
so...
Hurums, and the Hurum aren't Ents, they are Ents and trees, and it's like the infection of... So the Ents have got sleepier and become tree-like but bitter and evil.
Yeah.
And they've woken up trees around them with their magic and made them... So this is why the Hurums can move, and it's like a big black forest that can move, but it's kept deep in the centre of Fangorn.
Yeah.
And of course, as we all know, Fangorn is actually Treebeard's other name. And because that's Entish for you, takes a long, long time to say anything worth saying.
You're tree, got your time.
Damn straight, or you're
with it.
tree-like.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is the point.
And you got upset at Helm's Deep
Because why are the elves there? Get Haldir back to Lothlorien, where he's meant to die, defending the edges of Lothlorien with all the Galadriel-based elves, who most of them stem from the First Age as well, because they're the exiles. Because this is what people don't realise. Galadriel is exiled to Middle-earth in the First Age. And she basically, as the world sinks, the surviving elves of the First Age who haven't gone back to the Undying Lands go east. And they set up Imaldris, which is Rivendell, to use of you who don't speak Elven at times, and Lothlorien. And the Grey Havens.
But Lothlorien doesn't exist when Lord of the Rings is happening.
Well, no, Lothlorien exists when Lord of the Rings is happening, dear, because Lothlorien's in Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yes, sorry. I was thinking of Gondolin.
Now, Gondolin is the hidden city in the First Age, and it is Turin and the curse on Turin who causes Gondolin to be found. And then Gondolin falls. But Glorfindel, who is in the books but not in the film, is the last Lord of Gondolin. Which is why, technically speaking, if you know your history, if they'd taken Glorfindel with them, with his full war paraphernalia, through Moria, the Balrog would have shit itself and run the other way. Because Glorfindel kills no less than 5 Balrogs himself.
Badass.
Yeah. And then the king of the Balrog pops up, and he goes, yeah, I'm done now. And I'm trying to remember who defeats the king of the Balrogs. I'm trying to remember even, because I want to say Morgoth, which is Melkor.
Didn't we have this?
Yeah,
I have to. That have got the same name.
You've got Morgoth and Melkor. And it's working out.
I want to say it's Morgoth.
It's all right. I have the dictionary here.
Yeah, but when we went to Hay on Wye, there was a huge stack of Lord of the Rings cheat sheet books, basically
they're not cheat sheet books.
It's like a dictionary. Like you can dip in and out of without having to read.
Right. So Morgoth, of course, is Melkor. That was it. Because it's going to bug the hell out of me, folks.
We should have a competition.
Yes, yes, indeed. Hang on, let me look under B for Balrog here, folks. It's much easier.
But
Balrog. Yes, let me have a quick look under Balrog, because otherwise I will go to bed and it will literally...
It'll just be there, with the covers pulled up, eyes, just huge eyes.
I can't remember. Balrogs. There we go.
Watch it not
Servants
say.
of Melkor. Yeah. Who's their king? I can't remember. Gothmog. That was it. Because Gothmog is the general in the films.
Yes.
And I went, why is they named an orc after the king of the Balrog?
From the crap Hobbit films.
No. From the actual siege of Minas Tirith.
Yeah.
The general leading them on the Battle of Pelennor Fields is Gothmog.
Well, maybe really.
Because then again, the battering ram is Grond.
Yes.
Which was the mace of Sauron.
Yes.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Sauron's mace was called Grond.
Right.
In the Battle of the Last Lions. So they build a giant fucking battering ram to smash into Minas Tirith, and they rename it in honour of his mace.
Right.
So, but Gothmog, so this is the problem. You have Morgoth and you have Gothmog. And one is King of the Balrog, and one is the first Dark Lord in the First Age, which gets very confusing. It's like Angmar and Angbad, and I get them mixed up. But going on from the Witch King...
you know how everybody has these, oh, I'm going to name my child after this book. It's I'm just going to check my kids into nursery. Oh, brilliant, what are their names? We've got Gothmog and Morgoth.
Like you do. But, speaking of Battles of Pelennor Field and Grond and everything else and Sauron, we go back to the Second Age, but it also ties into the Third Age.
Yeah.
But the Second Age, people were asking me about the Necromancer and where that steps. The Necromancer and the Witch King.
Because the Necromancer's Sauron, isn't it? That they're all crapping themselves over in The Hobbit.
But it is, in fact, Sauron.
Yeah.
Now, in the timeline, the Necromancer actually happens between The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, because it's
an in-between bit.
He's kind of souping himself up, I guess.
To go back to... Well, the Battle of the Last Alliance happens. He is defeated. Elrond doesn't yeet...
Isildur.
...into the fire, which it would have been a damn sight easier.
Drop kick him.
No one's going to question the only surviving elven lord who was whose boss...
Yeah.
...was literally the leader of the entire elven forces.
Yeah.
So, you've got general and, 5-star general, elven general chappie, 2-star elven general, which is basically Elrond.
Yeah.
And no one seems to question the idea of him just kind of going, Isildur took the ring, we'll go to Mount Doom. In the films, it makes no logical sense. On the battlefield, he takes the ring and leaves.
Yeah.
It's never said
I
that they go to
suppose-
Mount Doom to destroy it. He takes the ring as a battlefield trophy.
Yeah.
Whereas in the film, you've just set yourself up for a massive fail by not having Elrond just go,
Pick him up.
well, it's not even that. It's not even Elrond. Bearing in mind,
Sparta kick him.
Elrond's brother
Yeah.
is the direct descendant of
He's
Isildur.
an ancestor.
So basically, that's his uncle so many times removed. At which point, if I was your uncle and you're doing something stupid like that, into the lava you go. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Get rid of it.
I think they did it from a filmmaking point of view to kind of set up the idea that there's this great big mountain that you can get rid of the ring in.
If you are going to see Lord of the Rings and you aren't aware of Lord of the Rings, then you're an uneducated, uncouth moron who needs to be educated.
Just to preface this, somebody that I love very dearly went to see Phantom of the Opera, the film, and then complained because it was a musical. So you can't apply certain types of logic. And plus, in Peter Jackson's book, he was saying that
Peter Jackson's book.
Peter Jackson wrote a book that was all about him trying to make Lord of the Rings and about his battle with all the studio executives and stuff because they wanted him to make it one film.
Well, that's because they're idiots.
And that, but the whole thing was they were like, you can't have anything in the film that you can't explain to like Stuart or something. And Stuart was like the most stupid like American guy ever.
Well, you don't make a film based off the Americans, do you? That whole country's stupid
Yeah,
at
but
times.
this is
You
why-
make a film based off the main audience of Lord of the Rings, which are British people and Australian people and New Zealanders and anyone who actually has an education system. But yes.
You know what I should get you to play is the Shadow of Mordor game.
Oh, please don't. They
No.
mash that up so badly.
No, but in that you've got like the guy that's like the ghost guy that possesses that can hop in and out of your body is like the guy that forged the ring, like the elf guy.
I want to say Fëanor, but it's not Fëanor. It's the son of Fëanor. Fëanor is the original one who wanted hairs of Galadriel.
Oh yeah, and she was like, no.
No! And he wanted a hair, and he asked 3 times, and she turned around and gave 3 hairs to Gimli, because fuck you, elves.
Somewhere that guy is just like...
That guy died, dear.
Oh, okay. Well, in the Elven Afterlife.
He was... No, he didn't get the Elven Afterlife.
Oh.
Fëanor really fucked up in the end of the First Age.
What
and
did he
Fëanor,
do?
Well, he tried to steal the Cimmerils and stuff, darling.
Oh, it's that guy.
Fëanor, created them, but he also ends up being destroyed by his own creation to some... Fëanor doesn't have a good time of it. And he's not... And what's really depressing is Fëanor isn't even cursed. It's just his own nature of being so hot-blooded. And his sons are the same, and it's known as the Curse of Fëanor, but they're not really... And it all gets mashed up, and it's all a big mess. And the problem is, elves are inbred to fuck.
Well, you like making that point about Arwen and...
Arwen's grandmother is Galadriel, folks. And then Arwen's husband is Aragorn. But Aragorn's uncle, in effect, is Elrond through numerous generations. Because the first king of the actual Númenóreans was Erandil, who was Elrond's brother. Because Elrond in the books is Elrond half-elf.
Yes.
But no one ever points that one out.
No, they don't.
And the fact that Arwen has 2 brothers, Elladan and Elrohir, who turn up with the Grey Company, the remainder of the last lines of the Númenórean households of Northern Arnor. But yeah, so this is the problem. Aragorn's basically married his cousin. And Aragorn's mother-in-law, of course, was Arwen's mum. She's no longer with us, which is why Aragorn is gifted the jewel by Galadriel instead in the book, because the jewel giving used to be the mother's job to the future son-in-law of... Because it's all an elven custom. But then you realise, folks, that elves are so inbred, it's not even funny.
I suppose there's only X amount of them, really, because they live so long. It's not like they have, 60 children a go.
But this is the problem. It's still, my God, you're all inbred. It's like... La da da, creation of God. But obviously, they probably don't get genetic mutations because they're the first children of God.
Yes.
Shocking. Magic, folks.
So there's the the gods, which is like not Iluvatar the next rung down.
So Iluvatar is the creator of it all,
Of which
and then you get the
Melkor's
Valar,
one.
and Melkor is the one who brings disharmony and discord
Yes.
during the songs.
Yeah.
And this creates
All
X,
the bad
Y, and Z.
stuff,
Well,
yeah.
not all the bad stuff at the point. He creates discord in the harmonies, but it rises up, and what it creates, and then what that creates is eventually the earth as it sees. But Melkor always wanted dominion over things. And when the elves are, shall we say, sung into existence and then done by Iluvatar, Melkor takes the elves, of course, and corrupts them and generates the orcs.
That was the one thing when I was watching Lord of the Rings, and I was like, why are they digging them up out the ground? Like, it didn't... They kind of sort of explained the Uruk-hai.
No, the Uruk-hai are being...
Yeah.
because they were Vat created.
Right.
Because what you have to understand, orc and goblin are the same thing.
Right.
They're interchangeable. It's
Okay.
just the words.
Yeah.
If they live underground, they're goblins. If they
Yeah.
live above ground,
Right.
but in a darkened realm, they're
Yeah.
orcs.
Right.
And this is the whole point. A goblin and an orc are basically interchangeable as a term.
Yeah.
You see it in the Hobbit, in the Battle of the Five Armies,
yeah,
where
yeah,
it's
yeah.
goblins and wargs versus elves, men and dwarves.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Bjorn the bear with
Yes.
his thing, who isn't technically a Maya, he's the next step down
Like
from a
Gandalf.
Maya. No, Gandalf is a Maya, darling.
Right, okay.
Gandalf is one of the servants of the Valar.
Yeah.
He
Oh, that's
is
it. So it's like Iluvatar, Maya.
Iluvatar,
Valar.
Iluvatar,
Yeah.
Valar,
Yeah.
Maya.
Okay.
And then below the Maya are other things,
Yes.
and then you, including the elves and everything else.
Yeah.
This is why the elves appear in two places, see them as it were, but if you've got the magic sight with the ring, for example, the elves are all like, oh, because they exist in two planes at
Yeah.
once, so to speak. They're a bit like the principle in D&D of the celestial type, where you can be half celestial, half
Yeah,
human.
yeah.
The Azima and stuff. That's how you have to view elves sometimes.
So I'm gonna ask
Yeah.
about your favourite person and about.
He's not my favourite person, but everyone does him such a discredit, and you can all go, yeah. I've been polite there, but I would have said something a lot worse, but it's Tom Bombadil,
Yeah.
right?
The only kind of, I think the only thing we've ever properly argued about is Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, it is because no one has a background knowledge of Tom Bombadil.
No, this is the thing when you
He
explained
is a
it.
Maya.
Yeah.
He protects the old forest next to Hobbiton.
Yeah.
That forest is older than Hobbiton.
Yeah.
Tom Bombadil has lived there since God knows when.
Literally.
Yeah. Well, probably since the First Age.
Yeah.
His wife, as much as she is the elven daughter of the river, is also a Maya. She isn't an elf, she is Goldberry.
Yeah.
She is called the elven daughter of
She
the
just
river
looks like-
because she looks like an elf, because the Maiar tend to take remnants of what they think would work. So, Tom Bombadil is probably as old as creation, at which point he's about 60,000 years old.
Yeah.
Which is why, when you bimble into his realm, because you're four hobbits lost and there's a big old willow that tries to kill you, and his happy merry doll
Yeah.
sing along with the blue coat and yellow boots, the One Ring doesn't work for him.
Yeah.
In the sense of, it's a pretty gold ring, but it does jack shit for me, because I'm that powerful and old that I'm literally like, I've been forgotten about even by our lords and master across the bloody sea in the
Yeah.
Undying Lands.
He's like got like a witness protection program.
Yeah, it's just his powers, because you've got to remember Tom Bombadil is all he's called by the Hobbit.
Yeah.
He's got about 20 different names depending on who you look at.
Yeah.
And when I point this out to you that his real name is Iwan Barander, and you were like, wait, what? I'm like, yeah, Tom Bombadil isn't his real bloody name. That's what the Hobbits call him. And it's like, it's all they know of him. But in the Hobbit histories, he's always been there since the wrecking of the Shire starting.
Yeah.
So this is the whole point. Tom Bombadil is ridiculously powerful.
So he's like as powerful or more powerful than Gandalf.
Probably more powerful than Gandalf.
Right.
Because he has his little realm that he defends, and him and Goldberry until
Yeah.
the world ends, and they're just sat there, like going, da 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 da, not caring. At which point,
Yeah, that's about it.
yeah. But the problem is, no one kind of went, maybe we should have stripped him of his power.
Yeah, he's
Because
just sat there.
because he's not doing anything. So, because what you come to realise is every time a Maya comes from the Undying Lands and the halls of Iluvatar properly and has to go to Middle-earth, they strip them of about 75% of their power. Because if they let them be what they were...
Yeah, they'd just be like, haha, I'm ruling everything.
Which is the whole issue with Melkor and Sauron, is because they're stripped of their powers as well.
Right.
But that shows you how powerful they really are.
So is Saruman the same as well?
He was a Maya,
Oh, yeah,
yes.
because all the wizards are,
All
aren't
5
they?
wizards, including Palar and Brishtar, which are the 2 blue wizards, by the way, folks.
That everybody thinks went evil because they're kind of dropped off the map.
They disappear. Gandalf, Saruman and Radagast lose track of where they are, what they're doing.
Yeah.
Now, there are theories.
Yeah.
Now, one of the theories is that one is basically the mouth of Sauron.
Yeah.
And the other one has replaced one of the ring wraiths.
Right.
Because he defeats it and takes its ring of power.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, being a Maya with a ring of power, but it's not the ring of power, it's one of the rings of men.
The 9 ones,
Yeah. So, at which point, but wizards, at this point, that's what I mean by the wizards have been stripped of the vast majority of their powers.
Yeah.
So while they're still wizards and pretty potent, they are nowhere near the level of ability they should have if they were pure Maya turning up going, ta-da! It's like, oh, good lord, yes, that's basically a god turning up. Well, an angel, so to speak. So you kind of get this thing where they're stripped of their power when they come to Middle-earth. And Melkor loses all of his power when he takes Remnant on this planet, or on Middle-earth, so to speak. And so actually do the other Valar when they leave Aman and go to war properly in Middle-earth.
Yeah.
They lose some of their powers, and in some respects they lose quite a lot of their powers at times. So they're still ridiculously potent and powerful beings, but they're not gods anymore.
So, at the end of the 3rd film,
Frodo
Frodo and Bilbo and half the people get on the boat.
Yep.
And they go off to the
Undying
west.
Lands.
Yeah, so what?
They leave the planet.
Oh my god! Like Poochie. I'm gonna go back to my home planet.
Well, to stop anyone ever trying to get to the Undying Lands again of Aman, they take it off the planet when they make it circular, and it's literally sat like a form of heaven.
So it's like Greece. The boat should have just like gone off, like off into the sky.
But it's more just that thing of the reason being it works though is because to the elves, of course, the world is still flat.
Right.
So for them, they just keep sailing, and it just eventually just kind of da 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 da, and they end up in the Undying Lands.
So what if I'm Frodo and I get off this boat that's just kind of sailed off into space or whatever?
In effect,
What's it like?
the Undying Lands
Yeah.
is described in the first age deer in the Silmarillion.
I don't remember. There was a lot of
City
things
of Valinor
described.
is the whole thing with the 2 trees and
Right.
everything else.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
a beautiful, untouched, unspoilt land of farming and agriculture and,
Right.
and like beautiful buildings and all sorts of. Think of like the Elysian Fields, dear.
Yeah, but only normally elves are allowed to go.
Kind of. When the elves get tired of Middle Earth, they go
Yeah.
to the Undying Lands.
Like
When the
a
world
retirement
actually ends,
Yeah,
everyone, in effect,
yeah.
will end up in the Undying Lands.
But if like
Now, there's-
Boromir, so Boromir's not there.
No, because no one knows what happens to humans.
Oh.
Because Iluvatar kept their futures and what happens to them and where they go hidden from everyone but himself.
Oh.
Because both elves and humans were created by Iluvatar.
Yeah.
But he created them for different reasons and to do different things. And this is the one problem you get, is what you have to understand is the whole premise of the Legendarium is that it is meant to be an alternative history to our history.
Right. Yeah. Because eventually there's no elves, there's no hobbits.
It's
just
all
blokes.
folk tales.
Yeah.
It's just men. And this is the whole point. It was written in some respects as an allegorical,
Yeah.
alternative, early mythological history
Yeah.
to us.
Yeah.
So rather than so we have the Greek with the Atlantis and everything else, Tolkien wrote Numenor and Gondor and Arnor and
Yeah.
everything else and created this, not like this huge world as an alternative history to our history.
Yeah.
So humans none of the Valar and the Maiar and the elves know what happened to humans when they die.
Right.
because they don't go to some degree in the halls of Iluvatar and stuff. There is a realm.
Is this
where-
Mandos's place?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is Mandos's
See, I
place,
do
darling.
pay
You
attention
do.
to some stuff.
So the elven souls of those that have perished through conflict, because got to
Yeah.
bear in mind elves are immortal.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
that's what we like to call practical immortal, as
Yeah.
in disease and time don't kill them, but you can still put like a 9mm through their head and they drop dead. So that's the whole thing. So you have to consider that the elven souls that are maintained in Mandos's halls, as
Yeah.
it were, can return from the Hall of Souls.
Yeah.
And they basically get new remnants of their bodies and aren't spirits. They are they're not reborn, but like if they die, they go to the Hall of Souls. If they get bored of wandering around as ghosts, so to speak, they can then just come back to the Undying Lands,
Okay.
because the Undying Lands is now, that's the reason it's called the Undying Lands.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So basically all the elves who have died throughout the history of Middle-earth could come back if they wanted to.
I don't blame them for not. I don't.
No, but not to Middle-earth. They just come back to the Undying Lands. So if
Yeah.
they're like, I'm now a spirit, I feel like I've had enough of being a spirit, I want to see my family again. Pop, oh, I'm back in the Undying Lands bimbling around as an elf again. Gimli's the only dwarf who ever goes to the Undying Lands.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But all the souls of the dwarves go to the halls of Mandos.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
they can't return. But when Gimli's time finally, he finally dies, because the problem is, only the elves and the Valar and the Maiar don't die in the Undying Lands.
Yeah.
Oh, and the hobbits for some reason don't die. Because he never actually wrote what happens to the hobbits when they go to the Undying Lands.
No. Well, this is the thing. It kind of just goes, and you're like,
Because there are 3 hobbits that make it to the Undying
Yeah.
Lands. That's Frodo Baggins,
Yeah.
Bilbo Baggins,
Yeah.
and Samwise Gamgee.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
After Rosie Cotton's died, his numerous fucking children are now ruling the Shire.
Yeah.
And Sam goes, I'm 100 and something. I'm going to the west. I've always wanted to go and see the elves. And it is, I believe, Ceradan of the Grey Havens, who is the elf. He's like the last elf, so to speak, in the Grey
Yeah.
And he literally was waiting for Samwise to finally...
Aw.
Well, Sam carried the ring.
Yeah,
And
well,
because of the
yeah,
corruption of the
yeah,
Rings of Power,
yeah.
it meant Sam got into the Undying Lands as well.
He
Well, he
deserves
does.
good things.
Because you've got to remember, Merry and Pippin, of course, also spawn all the children and take over the Took and Brandy book. So Tuckland and Buckland, as it is.
Yeah.
So they take over their territories, and they're both buried by Aragorn, of course, in Minas Tirith. They take one final ride down, in full war gear, no less, at the age of, I think, 100 and something, and literally go, win, my queen. Your husband is dead. We are now on our own final journeys. And if I remember correctly, it is Pippin is buried with Aragorn, and Merry is buried with Theoden
Aw.
in the White Mounds.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Now, this is the great thing about Tolkien and his Anglo-Saxon knowledge and everything else, and the Rohirrim, who are actually my favourite human race. You may keep your Númenóreans and Gondorians, boring people that they are.
I don't know. A lot of the hot guys come from Gondor.
No, they don't.
In
No,
your
they really
in
don't.
Your opinion.
No, because you've got to remember that the Rohirrim are Anglo-Saxons.
Yes.
And they're an alternative history of Anglo-Saxons, as if they rode horses.
Yeah.
And that's freaking badass. For one reason. In the film, and Peter Jackson's a cunning little old man there, but it's even in the books, it is an alternative version of the poem called The Wanderer.
Is this the one she sings? When no,
No,
sorry, no.
Theoden in the film quotes it of,
Oh,
where is the
yeah,
horse
yeah.
and rider, where is the thing? It's I won't say corrupted, it is an alternative worded version of an Anglo-Saxon poem called The Wanderer, which is
Right.
about a man whose lord and compatriots are all dead, and he has no family, no hall, no nothing, and he's
Yeah.
adrift in the world, in a time when oaths and having all of that was your biggest factor.
So like a Ronin or a samurai.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, but without like the comfort of like
Yeah.
a command. Because even Ronin had war bands.
Yeah.
You are literally alone in the world, and the wars are all gone, and you've survived it, and you're sat there going.
Oh.
It's basically a poem about survivor's guilt to some
Yeah.
degree. It's really harsh, but Anglo-Saxons got it. And Peter Jackson, and whoever knew Tolkien well, they literally sat there and go, this is this, and we're just going to take the words and change them. But basically, have a big old Anglo-Saxon poem to quote in the film. Off you go. Because you are basically a bunch of Anglo-Saxons on horses.
Yeah.
Which is always really nice.
So, if you were going to make a film about anything in Tolkien, what would you make it about?
I would like to see a film of the fall of Gondolin.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty. Yeah, I'd
because that is a really big epic battle film.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't need to be over lots of films. You could do it in a 3-hour slot. But to give it full credit, I would take the proper Lawrence of Arabia approach, make it 4.5 hours with an intermission.
Yeah.
Like the full director's cut version of Kingdom of Heaven. Do a proper 4.5 hour with an intermission monstrosity for the fall of Gondolin.
Yeah.
Okay. Because that would be beautiful.
Yeah.
And it would be epic with the battle, because there would be armies of Balrogs and dragons and the dwarves and the elves and Turin falling to his doom from fighting Gothmog. Yeah, that's it. It's Turin who fights Gothmog. My brain's just like feed me the rebooted and fed me the. But yeah, I would love to see a film made of the Siege of Gondolin, because if you want to do a proper true elven love fest, I'm literally big old elf nerd lover. Go and do the Fall of Gondolin. Don't shove them into my Third Age films. Shove them into the films where the elves are actually the badass guys. They're not a dying race where their magic is waning and they're like, I can still supply troops Helm's Deep. No! My Helm's Deep, defended purely by men of Rohan. Not any elves. Real bugbear as well, of course. They miss out Elladan Elrahir and the Grey Riders. People like they're not important. No, they really are. They are the last noble lines of Numenor in the whole of Middle-earth.
Fair enough.
Because there are no Numenorians truly left in Gondor.
Because Aragorn's supposed to be like 7 foot tall or something stupid.
7'2".
Yeah.
Bear in mind, most elves.
So in that tavern scene, he would have stuck out a bit in the corner with his cloak on. His head brushing against the fucking
given
ceiling.
that Galadriel's meant to be 6'11".
Oh wow.
Because elves are that tall.
I mean, that's a good shout to get Kate Blanchett to play her then, really.
Which means Kate Blanchett can act and isn't just tall.
No, indeed.
To quote Kimmy Schmidt. Is Kate Blanchett a good actress, or is she just tall? She is a good actress, and she's tall. Very important. They should have got Uma Thurman to be a elf as well.
Oh, well, you never know. I don't know.
I don't know who's in it.
I think there's a lot of people that are like
the height thing. Okay, halflings. Okay, hobbits. They're called halflings for a reason. They're half the height of a Númenorian.
Oh.
The men of Rohan
and
the men that you find in Middle-earth are not the men of Númenor, and they're not the men of the First Age. The men of Númenor are descended from the men of the First Age.
Yes.
To some degree.
Yeah.
And they are also, and the men of the First Age that survive the First Age go on to spawn the men of Dale.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Lake City.
Yeah. And that's the old kingdom of the north.
Yeah.
The Rohirrim were the neighbours of them below, who were the horse lords of that steppe plain, and they go south to the Gap of Rohan, eventually as it would be known, near Isengard.
Yeah.
Isengard, pronounce it. Yes, indeed. So this is the whole point. And also you've got to remember that Isengard used to be an outpost of Gondor.
Which makes sense.
Because it's the big tower.
Yeah. They like a good tower.
They do like a good tower but its sister tower was Osgiliath.
And that's the one that's all
broken, which is the ruins of Osgiliath, which was on the river.
Isn't the one that's been turned into a great big horrible fortress? Wasn't that one the Gondor ones as well?
That was one I was on about earlier. That was Minas Tirith, which becomes Minas Morgul.
Yes, there we go. See, look, it's in there, and I can't even blame you because I got raised as a.
And you also have Minas Tirith. You've got Minas Tirith, Minas. There's a lot of Minas with
many Minas.
There are many Minas in Gondorian, but you don't get it in Arnor.
Okay.
Arnor go with they have their own way of doing it, and it's the two kingdoms. There were two Númenorian kingdoms, but founded by the same family.
Okay.
So Isildur and his dad, Elendil, are the southern ones.
Yeah.
And in the north was Isildur's brother. And Isildur's brother is wiped out after the defeat. So the Battle of Last Alliance happens.
Yeah.
And Arnor is killed by the Witch King of Angmar.
Right.
And Arnor is destroyed on the orders of Sauron. But Arnor is destroyed by the Witch King of Angmar in a protracted war. And the capital is Fornost. And you have the Battle of Fornost, where eventually the Witch King is destroyed, so to speak, but the capital of Arnor is destroyed in the process, and then Angmar is reduced to nothing. And then Angmar is reoccupied and becomes a threat in the north again. But the Witch King's not there, and that's to do with Mirkwood and then the Necromancer.
Right.
Now you've got to remember that Mirkwood is the Grey Elves. So that's Thranduil and his
Legolas's
son, Dad.
Yeah.
And their family are elves from the First Age who were the ones still in Middle-earth.
So they're Northern Irish ones.
Yes.
Oh my god, Legolas with a Northern Irish accent. I live for it.
And you have my bow.
Oh dear. Right, are we gonna?
Yeah, we should. We're gonna call it there because that's about an hour.
We could keep talking.
I could keep going for a long
would
time.
Would you like the next Fantasy Sunday to be another Lord of the Rings one? Should we go back to 40k?
Let us know.
Yeah, let us know. Or is there another fantasy thing that Kieran might know lots about, or I might know lots about, and Kieran can ask me questions?
Ooh. I'm not asking you about Harry Dresden.
Oh, you should do. It's ace.
I don't like Dresden.
It's
Can't
so
be
good.
doing with Harry Dresden.
I remember my mum read the books and she nearly quit, and I was like, "Mum, why are you quitting?" She's like, "I just want him to have a nice day."
I tell you what we could do at some point.
What?
We could talk about Conan
Oh yeah.
and the realms of Lyonesse and all of that,
Yes.
because I grew up on that as well as
What's
Tolkien.
best in life?
No, not the Arnie, the proper Conan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Red Sonja.
Yes, Red Sonja. But yes, thanks everyone. In the comments section, whichever way we do it, please tell us what else you'd like to talk about. I can talk even more about Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
I can do this as much as I can do normal history. It's
Yes,
fine.
it's true.
But like and subscribe.
Yes.
Thank you for listening.
We have a Patreon.
I have a Patreon
If you're
now.
foolish
Another
enough.
shout out to Gary. Thanks for backing me on that. My first Patreon. I'm so proud of myself.
So you are going to plan on putting stuff up just on the Patreon thing as well, aren't you?
Yes, there will be certain aspects on Patreon which will be for paying people only.
Yes.
But they won't generally involve you.
No.
They're more my personal
Unless people would like to pay to listen to me, in which case I would be very shocked.
Yeah.
But
But there are my next one on Patreon I will be doing, which will be behind the paywall, which is actually a minimum of £1, folks. Literally, it's £1 or a
You're going
fiver.
cheap. You're
I
going
go
cheap.
cheap. I'm very cheap. You're basically just keeping me in tea and books.
Yeah,
That's all it's
Yorkshire
for.
tea.
Yorkshire tea and books is all it really for, just so I can keep reading and researching. But the next one is actually talking about the 14th century, my personal one, and I'll be talking about English warbowmen.
okay.
So it's my own personal,
Yeah.
not required by any societies or anything
just
else.
for fun.
It's me actually talking about what I started life as
Yes.
in reenactment to some
Yes.
degree.
We have to
So,
explain to the kids you're a Time Lord.
I am, yes,
Yeah.
yes. But thank you all for listening,
Yes.
and good night.
Kalinicta.
And I will speak to you all soon again.
Bye.
Bye.